This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Before moving into the application, I just want to walk you through a small PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so the product, I'm sure most of you probably already know the name of the product, which is Web Prol'IFIC. It is a web-based back office system for hospitality businesses. Now, we call this solution as an integrated solution. Why? The orange boxes that you see, the ones in orange color, which is purchase and receiving, accounts payable, inventory, food and beverage costing, general cashier, bank reconciliation, receivables, and general ledger and financial reporting. So the orange boxes that you see, these are the boxes that form the part of the application about which we are going to discuss in the next 4 days, which is Web Prol'IFIC. Now we call it an integrated solution. Why? Because all the financial reports are generated from general ledger. Therefore, all information or any information that you record in the materials management, in the accounts payables, in the bank reconciliation, general cashier, receivables, or even front office in the sense, in your case, I think it would be Opera, or it would be Oracle. So whatever information, revenue related information, monetary information, financial information, everything has to come into general ledger. Everything flows into general ledger so that you're able to generate the financial reports like the P&L, the balance sheet, the trial, or any other ledger inquiry that you want to do is possible from the general ledger module. This is how the login screen looks like. I will show you in the application as well. So there is a concept of Web Prol'IFIC can be configured, or the concept that we follow is of a company, chain, and property. So the consolidation available, this is in leeway for your information. The consolidation of reports, which is possible in Web Prol'IFIC, can be at the chain level. It can also be at the company level. So when I say company, chain, and property, the rules that we follow are that one property can belong to only one company and only one chain. A single unit or a single property will always belong to one company and one chain. The second is a single company can have one or more properties across chains. So a single managing company can have, it is possible to configure the properties under various two different properties across two different chains can be configured within a particular company. The third rule that we follow is one chain can have one or more properties, which is, of course, everybody is aware of that. So giving an example of the chain, property, and company concept that we have, it is, say, for example, the chain is called the Taj Group, which has property 1, property 2. Now, property 1 is managed by company 1, property 2 is managed by company 2. So if you need consolidation, then I have another chain called Hilton, which also has two properties, property 1 and 2. Property 1 is managed by company 1 and property 2 is managed by company 2, which means that if at any point of time the customer says that we want consolidation, the managing company wants a consolidation. So when we do a consolidation in Web Prol'IFIC, if we are doing it for company 2, they will get the information for property 2 of Hilton and property 2 of Taj Group, which means two separate properties across two chains, a single company. So that's the same concept which is applied for company 1. If you require consolidation at the company level, as which is company 1 is managing one property of Hilton and one property of Taj. So when the company 1 generates reports of consolidation, they will see the information of property 1 and property 2 across the chain. So that is the configuration that can be done to the system. Once you log into the system, this is how the menu structuring, which means you will see the products divided as accounting, interface, inventory, system admin, system function. I will tell you and I will let you know each and every options that are available here. There are alerts and user emails, and there is a quick menu launch that can be set up for users to access the screens on which they work more often. at a faster or at an easier rate. Instead of going into accounting, clicking, having multiple clicks, they can set it, it can be set up as a quick launch menu and they can access the screen right away soon after login. So there is a dashboard. These I'm just skipping, we'll just talk about it later. So moving on to the application, this is how the application looks like. I am taking the example of Wink Hotels, which is already done, so that it's easier for you to understand. So now, once I log in, now Wink happens to be the login information that I did was I entered the chain ID, I entered the property ID, and I entered the user ID with a password. I'm using a blank password. There is a possibility you may want to set up a blank password for the supervisor login. So once I have logged in, because the user ID that I have used to log in is at the chain level, which means I am a chain user, I have access to the chain. This is the chain ID. Plus, when I do a drop down here, I can see the list of properties which are a part of the chain. And because I have been given the login ID that I use, the user ID that I used, I have access to all the properties, which is why I can switch to whichever property I want to work. So that is how I switch from property to property. This is how I can do. All right. So now after you log in, you will see the products, which is accounting. When I click on accounting, you move inside and you will see sub modules, which are the accounts payables. You will see accounts receivables, bank reconciliation, general cashier, and general ledger. So similarly, when I click on the inventory module, which is the materials management has the inventory, which is the main inventory materials management module. It also has a sub module, which is purely for food and beverage costing. This is a recipe-based costing module that we have, which takes information from the main module, which is the materials management. And then there is the third is the small module called a service work order, which is primarily to generate work orders for any kind of services that the hotel is procuring. So it could be, for horticulture, for maintenance, for whatever kind of work order that they want to generate. So these are the modules which form a part of the inventory main module and the accounting module. The others that we have is the interface. All the interfaces, the various interfaces that we have for Web Prol'IFIC with various PMS or any other third-party product, the interface is the interface to transfer the information or transfer the files is available here. So in your case, when you move into interface, when the front office or the PMS happens to be Oracle, you will have to use this icon called transfer data to back office to transfer all the revenue and the city ledger files from general ledger and accounts receivable. Food and beverage we will discuss much later. Okay. Now going back, the system admin. When you click on system admin, the system admin has three sub-modules. One is others, one is system configuration, and one is system control. The most important, of course, being the system configuration. The system configuration has various options, within which the most important, of course, is the setup templates. When I click on the option of setup templates, what you get to see are the list of, this is the list which you see, this is the list of the various screens, various features, various functionalities available in Web Prol'IFIC. So when you have to, what you have to do is that every user ID that you create in the system is assigned a template. That template will have the list of the screens which the user is allowed to work on. So the access that you define, say, now if I give you an example, say for example, if it is accounts payables, if there is a, let me use this notepad. So when I say accounts payables, the list of users, say user 1, user 2. So these are the two users who will be who are a part of the payables work process of the hotel, and they should be given access. So before defining or before creating the user IDs, you need to define the template, which will include the template for accounts payables, in which you will list the various screens to which each of these users are allowed to work. Okay, so say for example, now this is the template ID, the ID that you will give to create a template. So I say for example, I give let me give a ID which can be up to 4 characters. So let me just do TSTAP. Sorry, it can be up to 8 characters. So this is a ID that I have given. Now these are the list of screens which are available. Since you want to locate the particular screens, sorry, my mistake. I will show you an existing template so that it's easier for you to understand. Say I am taking this is a template that I have for the supervisor. Okay, the moment I enter the template ID, I tab out or you click on search. On the right hand side, here on the right hand side, you will see this information, which includes the form description, the function description, the capability, and so on and so forth. So the form are the screen number. The form description is the description of the screens, and these are the list of screens for which access has been assigned, or it is a part of the template called SUP. So whenever I am creating a user ID and I assign the template of SUP to that particular user, that user will be able to see the entire list of screens which are mentioned here on the right hand side. When I say in the capability column, there is a column called capability. There are two options available. One is update and one is view. So by default, most of the screens will have the option of update. Update means the user will be able to open the screen, type in information in the screen, save the information at any given point of time, open the record that he has saved, and edit it. Whereas if you give the option of view means he will not be able to make any editing or any kind of record creation. Whatever is already existing in the screen or whatever records has already been saved, he will be able to only view those records and not make any editing or updating to the records. So these are the two capabilities which are available for each function and each screen that you have assigned to a particular template. And this template is in the process, in the future, in the next course of action, once you create the user ID, that a template is assigned to that particular user. Now, when you have to create a new template, you can click on this link, which is called to create, edit a template. So I click here. Let me do a reset. I click here. You can enter the template ID. So I say APTST. So I say accounts. I give a name, test template. And I say save and new. So the template ID has been created here, but I haven't yet assigned the screens to that particular template. So if I go down or if I search for the list, I should be able to, when I do a drop down here, I will be able to see the template ID that I've just created. So I do APTST and I click on search. So it will give me a blank screen here. There is nothing that I have assigned to APTST. To be able to assign or to be able to define the template APTST, I need to first locate the screens that I want to define in APTST. In that case, you can do a filter of the screens to locate those screens. So when I do a product drop down, I will see the list of products. So here I say accounting because I'm doing it for accounts payables. The next, I do a drop down here within accounting, which is the module that I am selecting. I will do accounts payables here, and then I can click on search. When I click on search, this list will be a refined list, which will show you all the screens and the functionalities which are available within this module called accounts payable of the main product accounting. So now the first screen that is listed here is for AP advances. I will tell you what these screens are when we are talking about the operations. This is just an example that I'm giving. So if I need to say, if I say that, okay, one of the users will be responsible for recording and paying out the advance money to the suppliers. So I do a click here in the plus sign. I select this and I do a right arrow here. So it will transfer, it will move these two options, which is the main AP advances, within which there is a functionality of pay advances, to here in this part, where the capability is update and update. If you want to give access, you say that, okay, this user will have access to all the screens of accounts payable. All you need to do is just double click here, this double arrow. The double arrow button, you click, the entire list which is displayed here, the entire list of screens which are a part of accounts payable will get transferred. And now all you need to do is just click on the save button. So when you click on the save button, now my template is ready. Or next step will be when I am creating a user who is a part of the accounts payables team, I will assign this particular template to that user. So that is how, this is how the options, so this is how when I go to home, I do accounting. When I click on accounting and I click on the accounts payables module, the list of options that you see here, the icons that you see here is based on the template that you've just created. So whatever access that you have given to user, whatever template that you have assigned to that particular user, the user when logs in will be able to see only those respective screens or picture or icons here for which there is, or for which he has been given an access in the template assigned to his user ID. Okay, all right, now moving on, let's go back to system admin. Therefore, within system configuration, the most important, of course, being the setup templates, and then you define your setup users, which means you are creating a list of users and you assign the template. How to create the users also I will tell you as we proceed with the training. Then the next important screen is the approvals, because the entire application, Web Prol'IFIC operationally, you can set up approvals. When I say approvals, say there is an approval required by the purchase manager and the financial controller for any purchases or any purchase order that is being raised in the system. So that approval setup, the list of people who needs to approve the purchase orders, or the list of people who need to approve the various purchase journals, or the list of people who need to approve any kind of payment receipts, those can be configured here in approval templates. The system, Web Prol'IFIC, also allows approval based on amount. When I say based on amount, I mean that, say, for example, the hotel in which you are implementing Web Prol'IFIC as a operations, what they say is that not every purchase order will go through an approval process, but any purchases which goes beyond an amount of 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees, that is when we require an approval. So that is what we call as amount-based approval. Therefore, amount-based approvals can also be set up, which is all the approvals, any kind of approvals, any number of approvals, everything can be set up from here, which is called the approval templates. So for the time being, to start knowing the application, what is most important is set up templates, set up users, and approval templates. Next is, there is something called as systems control. Now, systems control has one screen called advanced control. Now, advanced control is nothing, but these are all operational policies that can be defined here. There are a list of controls which changes the behavior of the application based on the operational policy of the hotel. Now, it would not be humanly possible for any of us. Even I don't remember the entire list of advanced controls. It is just that over the period of time with practice and with so much of interaction with users and understanding that I remember a few, but what you need to understand is that if there is a concept, if there is an operational concept which the hotel wants to implement, this is the screen called the advanced control, where you can look for a control code that will change the behavior of the application based on the operational policies that the hotel has. As an example, I can give you, say, what is an example that I should give you for operational policies? Say, okay, now there are some of our customers here in India where they say that the moment a purchase order is the highest authority, highest approval authority defined in the system, the moment that person or that user approves the purchase order, it should automatically generate a final print of the purchase order, so that the user does not have to click, go through a go through a, go through another click to be to print, to take a final print of the purchase order. So that is how they work. That is how the operations are. They say that the moment the purchase order is approved by the highest authority or the final authority, the system should automatically generate a purchase order, should automatically generate the final print of the purchase order. So these are some of this is just an example of operational policy that I gave you. So this is something which can be configured based on the control code, which is here in this list, and the list is available in this screen called advanced control. Others we will not discuss right now. Okay, so this is system admin. The system function has two screens. It has the change business date, which means you will change the business date. This is the option that is available from where you can move to the next date, change the business date, and of course closing and opening of the various financial periods. So closing and opening of your inventory periods, closing and opening of your accounts payables periods, closing and opening of your accounts receivable periods. So these are the two system functions that are available. All right. Then, okay, so this is how it is. Now, moving on to, I will start with accounting. Within accounting, I will start with the first step, or the very first, whenever you have to take a property live, or before taking up of property live, the first configuration or the first setup that you need to define in the system in Web Prol'IFIC is the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts are available in the module called General Ledger. So in General Ledger, there is something called as create modify account codes. Okay, create modify account codes is the screen from where you upload the list of account codes which the hotel has identified and given to you. So this uploading, the chart of accounts, uploading of chart of accounts, it is mandatory, and it is always the system, or the rule is to upload the chart of accounts at the chain. Okay, why is this the rule? So that to maintain the uniformity of the account codes across the properties. So the first rule is to verify, is to take a final list of the chart of accounts from the hotel and then upload it into the system. The uploading of the system into the system happens, you have to be at the chain, you go to General Ledger, and then there is this option called create modify account code. So when you click on create modify account code, this is the screen that opens up. I will explain how the screen is, what are each of the fields of the screen is. Like you can see here, when I have loaded the screen on the left hand side, these are the list of account codes which are a part of the chart of accounts of Wink Hotel. Okay, so each of these codes are listed within assets, liabilities, income, expenses, or when you click on all, it will list all of them together at the same time. By default, it is assets. So as and when you click, if you click on liabilities, the list will change to show you the liabilities list. When you click on income, it will show you the list of income ledger account codes. So this is how it looks like. Now, when you have to upload, there is this option here, which is called the download template. So when you click on the download template, there is an XML file which is downloaded. It is an Excel sheet in XML format. Let me just open and show you. When you open this Excel sheet, this is the Excel sheet which you actually give to the customer so that they can fill in the account codes, okay, and give it back to you so that you can upload them. So here, this is an Excel sheet. There is these are the columns. This is the template. So these are the columns which they have to fill in. What are each of these columns? I will tell you. There are two sheets. One is the data, one is the help. So data sheet is where the entire list of account codes are entered to be uploaded. And while entering, if you need help, then you can click on help, where it will show you each of the columns, what is the length of each of the columns, what is the data type, what is the length, and whether it is editable or not. So this is the help available for each of the columns. Now let me just go back to the data sheet. So the first column is the account category. When you take your mouse over on this column, it will also give you a pop-up help where it will show you what are the values that you can enter in this column. So account category is primarily you're defining whether this account code that you're about to create will be a part of liabilities, assets, incomes, or expenses. So whatever is the account category, you just have to enter L, A, I, or E basis on whatever is the category. The next is the account group. What is the account group? I will tell you. Then is the account name of the account, which means, like you can see, share capital, fixed assets, rooms division, rooms revenue, cost of operation, inventory, food inventory, beverages, so on and so forth. So this is a group name. This is the account group name, which will come the moment you enter the account group. So what is the account group and what is the account group name? I will go back and I will explain to you. The next is the account code. So this account code is the actual ledger code. Okay, so this is the account code, the ledger code. This can go up to a length of 10 digits. It can be numeric, it can be alphanumeric. Preferably, it should be numeric. It is easier to identify and understand. So this is account code. Then you give the account name, which is your ledger account code and your ledger account name. This is not mandatory. You can give a longer name if you want to, but it is not required. Department required. Department required means that this account code, say for example, rooms revenue, or say for example, I have created a ledger account code for printing and stationery. Now, printing and stationery is a ledger account code which will be required by rooms division, required by F&B, required by IT, required by sales, required by most of the departments. So when you say department required, yes, it means that the system is expecting you to map this particular account code, this particular ledger account code that you've created to various departments. So when you say N, it means this is like furnishing and equipment or share capital. Share capital is something which you can't map or is not required to be mapped to any specific departments, because this is an asset account code for the entire hotel, not for a specific department. So you say department required as N, whereas all other income and expenses ledger account codes which need to be mapped to specific departments, for them you need to say department required as Y. Print sequence number, I'll explain later. Print sequence number is nothing. It is the printing, when you say, finally, when you're taking a print of the chart of accounts, what is the order in which, or the sequence number in which this particular account code should be displayed in the report. So that is the print sequence number. GST flag is not applicable in your case because I don't think there is any GST. Is there any GST in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam and Thailand or any other region?
I guess, Priyanka, there is fiscal environment, not GST like India, but they have something
Not
different.
GST like India,
fiscal,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So this is primarily for India GST, so you don't have to worry. The GST flag you don't have to do. The rest of it I will explain as and when we move ahead. Okay. So this is the template where you can fill in the entire list of ledger account codes, save it, and save it in a location. You come back to the screen, you choose the file, you go to choose file, you select that particular template file in which you have filled in the entire ledger account codes, which is GL44, and open, and then you say upload data. The moment you say upload data, your entire list of account codes, your entire list of chart of accounts will start appearing here on the left hand side. So that is the process. First you finalize, you can give the template, this Excel sheet to the user, to the customer. They enter the entire list of account codes. You finalize the entire list of account codes and then finally come back to the screen and you can do a upload data. So that is how the chart of accounts are uploaded. Now let me explain each of the fields. These are the fields which are available even in the template. So it's the information happens to be the same, but let me just explain each of these fields that you see on the screen. So account code is clear. This is the ledger account code. The category is clear. Okay. The short description of the account code, the long description of the account code. Now, when you have to define the account attributes, there is something called as type of account. Type of account, when you do a drop down here, when you do a drop down here, type of account, there are three options. One is GL account for posting, one is account group heading, one is account group subheading. So when you're creating, or when you have uploaded the file, or when you are creating the account codes, if it is a functional or an operational ledger inquiry, say for example, room revenue, or say for example, food expenses or beverage expenses, where there will be financial transactions recorded in that particular ledger, for all those ledger account IDs, you will define it as GL account for posting. Whereas if you have defined, if you have identified and given account ID, which is purely to organize your chart of accounts, in which you say this is a account group heading. It is a account category heading. This is not a genuine, this is not an operational or a functional ledger account code. This account code has been defined only so that when we print the chart of accounts, it comes in an organized way. We know that this is a part of the account group heading. Then similarly, there is account group subheading. So if you define the account ID as account group heading and account group subheading, the system will not allow you to post transactions in that particular ledger ID. So if you have to post transactions into the ledger ID, it should be the type of account should always be GL account for posting. Next is subledger allowed. Whether the ledger account code that you have created, will it have subledgers? So if you say for example, salary, if you've created a ledger account code for salary and you want to maintain, and if the hotel says that we want to maintain subledgers, or the postings will happen into subledgers and not to the main ledger account code, then in that case, when you're creating the main ledger account code of salary, you will say subledger allowed, you will say mandatory. So the system will prompt you, which means in the next step, you will have to define the subledgers, which are a part, subledger IDs or subledger account IDs, which are a part of your main account ID that you're creating right now. Otherwise, if there are no subledgers to be defined, then you say no. Department required, I just explained, yes or no. Direct posting not allowed. Now, direct posting not allowed is a restriction that can be put to the control account codes, to the control ledger account codes. So when I say control ledger account codes, the example that I can give you is, say, the debtors ledger account code, which is the sundry debtors ledger account code and sundry creditors ledger account code, where these ledger account codes will not be used or should not be used by the user to post journals directly into these ledger account codes, which means that all information in the sundry creditors ledger account code or the sundry debtors ledger account code uh, will come from the transactions that are being posted in the accounts payables and the accounts receivables module, not as a direct journal in the general ledger module. So you can have a restriction for most of the control account codes saying direct posting not allowed. You just take it here. Then the account group. So let me explain what the account group is. Say I'm taking this example. I click on this particular row, which is room revenues, extra revenue. So every account code, every ledger account code should be a part of an account category, which is account group. So this account group is called revenues. This is the revenues because this is room revenue, extra revenue. This should be a part of this particular account group called 55511, which is revenues. Now, when you do a drop down here, you will see the list of account groups. You will see the list of account groups. Now, these account groups have been divided into, defined basis on what needs to be displayed in the balance sheet and what needs to be displayed in the profit and loss statement. Okay, so within balance sheet, we have these list of account categories. Similarly, if you go further, within profit and loss, within P&L, this is the profit and loss. These are the list of account categories that we have. So out of these account categories, because this is a room revenue and it should be displayed as a part of the profit and loss statement, profit and loss report, the account group where it should be a part of is revenue. So that is why I select 511 here. So when I print the profit and loss statement, it will show me the information or the figure which has been recorded for this particular ledger account code, room revenues, extra revenue. Therefore, similarly, for every ledger account code that you have identified, each of it has to be mapped to an account group. Applicable for by default, you can leave it marked for all the modules, but because there is no particular restriction. But however, if you like room revenue or food revenue, now this is related to revenue, so obviously it has got nothing to do with materials management, or it does not have anything to do with accounts payable. It has to do with accounts receivable and maybe to some extent for GC, and of course the interface, because the revenue is coming in from the PMS. So what happens is that if you specify the module in which this particular ledger account code is required, then at the time when the user is working in the accounts receivable module or is working in the GC module, he will be able to see, or the system will display this particular ledger account code only in these specific modules and not in accounts payable. So a user who's working or who's responsible for payables will not see this particular ledger account code. Hence, there is a reduction in the mistake that can happen by the user. Since he will not be able to see the ledger account code, he will not be able to post anything into that ledger account code. So you reduce the chances of any user posting transactions into a revenue journal, into a revenue ledger account code in the payables module. So this is the restriction that can be put, but there is no harm in leaving it picked for all the modules. I'm sure the users will be careful while working, but as an additional step of being careful, you can define or you can specify which are the modules in which the particular ledger account should display. Print sequence number, I had just said that this is just an order this is the order or the sequence number in which the display sequence number of the ledger account code in the list of chart of accounts. Okay, prepaid account and expenses are allocated is something we will discuss much later if required. Otherwise, what is absolutely necessary is these are the list of information that I just explained and the process of uploading your chart of accounts into the system. I hope whatever I've spoken is clear to everyone. Do you want me to repeat anything, or if there is any question, please ask so that after that we can move to the next topic. No questions? Okay.
No question.
Yes, I can't hear you. Can you be slightly a little louder, please? Did
That's
someone
okay.
say something? It's
That's
okay?
okay.
Okay, great. Okay, okay, great. Okay. So let's move ahead. Now, this is the first step. Now, okay. Okay. Before one small step, most often, uh, before you create the chart of accounts or before you upload the chart of accounts, there is something called as the general ledger control. Okay, so general ledger control, I will show you. Every module has a control screen, the general ledger control. The general ledger control, there are two options available. One is the control and one is the periods. So in the control part, it will show you the current financial year. It will show you the current financial year when the year in which you are taking the hotel life, that is the current year. Most often when I will get this verified although, but for your information, when you are taking a hotel live, when the property ID is created on the cloud server and given to you, you just have to come to the screen, open the control and verify whether the current year is displaying or not. Because the moment a property ID is created in the cloud server, the current financial year is automatically displayed by the system, or you don't have to come and enter anything here. You don't have to come and type anything here. All you need to do is just come here and verify that the current year that is displaying is correct. Then there is something called as a department break and the account break. So the entire structure of the account code, the entire structure of the general ledger code is a combination of the account break and the department break. Okay, so when I say account break here it is defined as 6 digits. So which is why when I checked, when we were looking at the chart of accounts here, create modify account codes, the account code structure or the maximum number that the system is taking is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why? Because again, in my control, in my general ledger control, it is defined that the account break or the digit or the length of that account will be 6. The maximum length it can go up to is 20. So whatever is proposed or whatever is told to us by the customer that our account code structure will have a maximum length of 6, that is what we defined here as 6. Then is the department break. The department break is when you map. When I said the example of printing and stationery, now printing and stationery will be mapped to IT, will be mapped to admin department, will be mapped to minor operating departments, will be mapped to front office, to every possible department available. So that department, the code of the department, what is the length of the code? So there are two. There is one is called the main and one is called the sub. So when I say main, I could say for example, is front office. So front office, the code that I will define for front office will have a maximum length of 3. Now, within front office, there are many departments categorized. So it could be admin in general, it could be the general manager's office, it could be the reception, it could be reservations. So the total length of the department is 3 plus 2, where The first 3 digits identify the main department, and the last 2 digits identify the sub-department within that main broad department category. So the complete ledger account code. So finally, at the time of operations, whenever you are using a ledger account code to post transactions, what you will see is not only the account break, but you will also have to tell which is the specific department to which you are posting this particular transaction. So the complete ledger account code is a combination of 6 plus 5. So this is what you get to see in general ledger. There is another screen called create modify chart of accounts. So here you created the account codes. Here the next step is mapping the account codes to the departments, and finally the complete structure that you can get to see is here, which is create modify chart of accounts. So if I open this, see, this is the complete. So the GL account, in the column of GL account on the left hand side here in the list here, in the column of GL account code, you'll see the complete ledger account code. So this is petty cash and so forth. Then if I go to income, there is rooms revenue. So rooms revenue is mapped to fitting room, to extra revenue, so and so forth. So this is a combination of the department and the account code. Okay. So once you have, before uploading the chart of accounts, once you have confirmed the confirmed the list of account codes from the user, from the customer, based on whatever has been defined in the control. Okay, so this is your financial year. This is the structure of your ledger account code, and you can define what is the GL separator. GL separator is a small dash that you can put. It's a hyphen that you can use to give a break between the what you call between the account code and the department code. So this is, if you remember, if you remember what you saw here, create modify chart of accounts, the ledger account code has a hyphen in between. So this is the division. This is the divide or the identification divide between the two. So that is what you can define here. Whatever is used by default, we always keep the hyphen. Nobody has asked us to change it. Nobody has said that change this GL separator to something, any other kind of symbol. So it's best to be left as hyphen. This is all, you will see it as this, and you don't need to change unless and until the user says that no, we don't want the hyphen. You can remove the hyphen if you want. Can JVs be modified, and what are the transaction type? This is what I will cover later on when we move on to operations. So within general ledger control, you have to verify that the current year is right, and the department of the account break, the ledger account code structure is right, and the GL separator has been defined or has not been touched. Then the next is period. Period are your financial periods. By default in the system, when a property ID is created in the cloud server, by default, the application already creates periods or financial periods for the next 10 years. But all you need to do is just come and verify whether it has been created or not. See, you will see it has been from 2023, it has created the financial periods up to 2030. So you may not need to come and create the periods. All you need to do is come to the control, verify that the periods are available, the financial periods are available at least for the next 10 years. So this is GL control. Then in the general ledger parameters, again, in the general ledger parameters, you will find this, which is the account group code. Okay, so this account group code is what is the various categories of ledger account codes, which normally in most cases you will find that this is already there. It is already there in the system because we have a predefined set of account groups which we which is already available in the system. However, you need to come to the screen, general ledger parameters, account group code, and verify what is the list that you are seeing, what you can view, what you see. So within balance sheet, the idea how to create a group ID is that the group ID is created as BS, identified as BS, which is a balance sheet, and the parent ID is defined as -1. So this is like a tree structure. Now, within balance sheet, I have given an ID 111, which is cash on hand, and I've said the parent ID is BS. So which means all these categories that I have created, cash on hand, cash in bank, cash in transit, trade receivables, deductible VAT, all of these entire list of category belongs to the balance sheet. How? Because I have defined the parent ID as BS, and it automatically picks up the lineage. The depth I have given as 2. So the lineage is picked up that within balance sheet, this will be displaying the category 111, and all the account codes which have been defined within the category 111, because we defined the account group at the time when we were uploading the chart of accounts. So the system will automatically display the entire list of account codes, entire list of ledger account codes which have been defined within the category 111 within balance sheet. So this is the lineage that is created here. Similarly, there is one created for P&L, profit and loss, and -1. At the most, what may happen in your case is that when you're taking a hotel live, you may find, when you come to this account group code, you may find only balance sheet and P&L. You may not find the others. So all you need to do is click on the add row, enter the group ID, give a description, give the parent, and the system will automatically pick up the lineage basis on the depth that you define here. 2, 3. If you say 3, if there is a, within cash on hand, if there is something that you need to define, or there is a subcategory within cash on hand, then the depth that you will define here is as 3, so that the lineage picks up as BS/111/ that particular account code, and within that account code, whatever are the ledger account codes. Yes. So this is the account group code, which you may have to create, but in most cases it is already created unless and until there are additional account groups which are not available in the list specific to that particular hotel or specific to that particular chain or the property. You can come to account group and you can create the account group before uploading your chart of accounts. So this is here. Then the next is the department type. This is where, now this is department type and department. Okay, so there are two things. One is department type and one is department. So the department type is the broad category of departments. Within this department type, we will define the various departments, the various cost centers, the consumption centers, or the stores. So this process of defining the department type and the department is possible from general ledger parameters in the general ledger module, or this can be, the department type and the department can also be defined from the materials management module. It's the same screen which is available even in the materials management module. But maybe as a practice, since you are starting from general ledger, since the process of configuring the system starts from general ledger, it is best advised that you create the department types and the departments in general ledger parameters screen itself. So first is department type, where you don't have to bother about adjustment, purchase, and receiving. These three department types are required by the system. They are already defined in the system, and you don't have to make any changes to these. So the moment you come to department type, you will see these three already existing. You don't have to modify anything. You don't have to add anything. You don't have to change any of these that you can see in the column of type. What you need to do is come here and create the various types of departments specific to the hotel that you're taking live, or the hotel for which you are deploying the system. So here, in case of Wink, you will see, okay, and you will also see another department marked as 00, which is no department. Okay, so these four: adjustment, purchase, receiving, and no department. These are system required records, and you don't have to tamper anything with this. what you need to create is you can click on the arrow button and you need to define, or first you take this, the master list configuration, the list of department types you discuss with the customer, and you get the list of the department types, the way they want to categorize their various cost centers. So it has been identified. You can give a numeric value to it. So this is kitchen store, F&B store, general store, housekeeping store. Then there is rooms, there is F&B service department, there is minor operating department, admin and general department, HR department. So this is how I create. I give a department ID, which is a numeric value. I give the description of that particular department or the store. And how does the system know that this KIT store or F&B store that you have created here is actually to be treated as a store or as a stock location? That is when you define the type here. So the moment you give the type as store, you also need to define the accounting type of that particular store. So the two different accounting types that are possible, one is average accounting and the other is FIFO accounting. So when you are saying KIT, when you are assigning a number 91, which is KIT store, and you tell the system that this is a store, you also have to give the accounting type as average or FIFO, whatever is the main scenario. Then the main department code, you give it as same 91, because these are department types you are creating. So if you remember the account code structure, there was a main department and there was a sub department. So what you are defining now is the main department, so which is of the length can be of 3 digits, maximum length of 3 characters, which is why you have said that the GL main department code is 91 and the dash, that is the hyphen. The GL separator that you had defined in GL control, which is a separator. So this counts to 3, 9, 1, and the hyphen becomes 3. So this is the GL separator that you've given, and you said the main code for this particular type of department is 91 hyphen. Okay, print sequence number is again the sequence or the order in which it should be printed when you are taking a print of this list from here, the master list. When you're taking a print, the order in which you want to display this particular department type. Now, you also have to mention here that this particular department type, the type of department or the main department that you're creating, is applicable to which module. It is not applicable to accounts payable because this is a store. It is not applicable to AR, it is not applicable to GC, but it is applicable to inventory for IV. IV means inventory. So you pick this option. Okay, so all of your stores, the entire list of IDs that you create, which are of type store, you define the accounting and you say they are applicable only for the inventory module. Similarly, now when you are defining the cost centers, which is your rooms, your F&B service, the process remains exactly the same. You give a ID, department ID here. You give the description and you tell the system that this is a department and not a store. So when you do a drop down here, you will see department and store. So you select it as department. Okay. When you select it as department, of course, there is no accounting type applicable for a cost center. Then the GL main code remains exactly the same. 3 digits. So 10 and hyphen. So 1, 2, 3, 3. And the sequence order in which you want to print each of these department types, the type category of cost centers, and you say which are the modules to which it is applicable. It is applicable to payables, it's applicable to receivables, it's applicable to GC, it is applicable to inventory, it is also applicable to the interface, which is IF. Okay, so this is how you create, or this is how you define the list of types of cost centers and your type of stores when you for that particular property or for that particular chain. Rest, adjustment, purchase, receiving, no department, all department, and multiple issue department. These will already be displaying in the system. You don't have to do any changes, no modification, no updation, no changes at all. The next step will be for you to define the departments. So now, first step was we created the categories of cost centers and the categories of stores. Now we are defining the individual cost centers and the individual stores or the stock location. So here I have created 9100 is the code that I have given. This is the description, which is the kitchen store. This is the long description. The GL department is 91, which means GL department means the store type, the type of particular store is 91. When the moment you select the department type 91, it will automatically map it here. Okay, so my kitchen store, this 9100, this code, which is my kitchen store, belongs to this particular type of store, which is the kitchen store. Similarly, F&B store is mapped to a main department, which is 92 F&B store. So general store ID I have given, so this is the general store. Similarly, now going down, I'm defining my cost centers. So here I have these list of restaurants. See, I'll show you. So this is grab and go, self-order, wink bar, restaurant 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These have been given unique IDs to 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Each of these belong to the category. Each of these departments or cost centers belong to this particular department type, which is 20, which is F&B service department. F&B service department number 20 is what I had assigned in this section, which is the department type. So that is how I will map all my cost centers to respective department types and all my store locations to the respective store types. So if I go down here, so like admin is a part of admin in general, HR is a part of HR, sales department, engineering department, other income is mapped to minor operating departments. So this is how you do it. So this entire set of mapping, if you find it difficult, most often it is done using this upload, download Excel data. Okay, this is again an Excel template. So when you click here, you'll again find the same screen of download template. You download the template. This is a kind of Excel sheet that you will see. I will open up the Excel sheet. You can give this Excel sheet to the user wherein he will fill. You will see it is already listing the department IDs. Whatever is uploaded will be there. All you need to is just verify whether what has been uploaded is correct. If there is anything incorrect, you can fix this, save it, and upload it to correct it. So all this entire list, instead of clicking on the add row button one row at a time and entering the entire information one row at a time, you can always take the help of upload, download Excel data, which is an Excel sheet, give it to the user, let the user fill in, you verify, upload it, you download it again. If the user says there are certain things wrong, when you download it, it will download with the data which is already there in the system. You fix that information and you upload the information back into the application. So this is department, type, and department. So once you've done this, you have uploaded. Now you can verify your list of start of account, your account codes. You can upload this. Once this is uploaded, the next step will be you are mapping all your income and expense account codes to various departments. So you come to this screen, which is map account with department. You will see the entire list of account codes here based on assets, liabilities, incomes, and expenses. So when I click on income, these are the list of my income codes. And on the right-hand side, you will see the entire list of department types and the departments which you had just created in the previous screen. So all you need to do is that when I select the account code beverage revenue breakfast, which is the department to which I want to map it. So I say it all belongs to F&B service department, which means I should map to grab and go. I should map to restaurant 4. I should map to restaurant 5, self-order, wing bar. Okay. So similarly, when I say laundry services, laundry revenue. So laundry revenue is a part of minor operating department. within which there is a department called other income, and I have mapped it here. Okay, so rooms revenue, when I say rooms revenue, I am mapping to rooms here. So this is how the mapping is done. Similarly, when you go to the expense account code list, you will find, say, beverages cost. So beverages cost again is mapped to the F&B service departments. If you say decorations here, decorations is again mapped to F&B service department. It is also mapped to minor operating. It is also as well as mapped to rooms within which has housekeeping and rooms. Okay, electrical maintenance. I click on electrical maintenance. It is a part of admin and general department, engineering department, and HR department. So I have mapped these three: admin, engineering, and HR. So that is how you map each of your account codes that you have uploaded to specific cost centers. And then once you've done this, the mapping is over. The final list, complete list that you will see is here, which is create, modify chart of accounts, create, modify chart of accounts. The complete ledger account code will display here. So if I go to expenses, it will show you 627101. This is the account code, ledger account code, which belongs to 1011, which means it is for rooms, it is for housekeeping, it is for grab and go, it is for self-order, wing bar, and so and so. So basic salary is the account code. Basic salary is mapped to all the departments, which is why the complete ledger account code of expense salary is appearing here. Okay. I hope this is clear to everyone. So the step is you come and verify the general ledger control, whether you are able to see the account code structures, the current financial year and the financial periods. Then you come to general ledger parameters. In general ledger parameters, you verify whether the account groups are available or not. If any additional account group needs to be defined, you define it here, giving the lineage, whether the account group should be displayed in the balance sheet or should it be displayed in the P&L. You define your list of department types. You define your list of individual cost centers and store locations. Meanwhile, you should already give the Excel sheet or the Excel template so that the customer can enter the list of account codes, the ledger account codes for assets, incomes, liabilities, and expenses. You verify that list and you upload it in this screen, create, modify account codes. Once you've verified, you upload it here. The chart of accounts are uploaded. You come to the next option, which is map account with departments. You map each of the cost centers with your ledger account codes, and you can finally see the entire chart of accounts from this screen. So these are some of the very initial or the first steps when you are taking a hotel live. Once this is done, your general ledger, all these things are up and running, are uploaded into the system, they're verified and all is correct. Now let's move on to each of these modules, each of the individual modules, starting from materials management, and see what are the master configurations required for each of the modules, which can also be uploaded using an Excel template. So how does the Excel template look like? And what are the fields the mandatory fields that needs to be filled in the Excel, and how to upload it. So that is the next topic that we're moving into. So I go home and I move to inventory. Just give me a moment, please. Please stay online. So this is the materials management module. So I am again at the chain. I have not moved to the property. So the master configurations is always suggested you do it at the chain level, so that your list of, not only your list of chart of accounts, but your list of item codes, your list of suppliers, all these things are uniform across the properties. There is no conflict of codes happening for your inventory items list or your supplier list or any other tax setup that you need to do. So I'm still at the chain. I go to inventory. Let's start from inventory control. Now, this, like I said, every module has a control. The control that we saw in general ledger was to define the structure of the ledger account code and the financial period. Similarly, in inventory also, there is an inventory control screen. Please note that the inventory control screen or the GL control screen or every control screen which is available in each of the modules should not be visible to the end user. This is purely for us or maybe for you in the future when you are supporting the customers. It is not to be provided to the end user. They are not to see the screen or go and make any changes to the screen at all. So in inventory control, what are the things that are defined? Should vendor history be maintained? Is accounts payable module installed? Is general ledger module installed? Is food and beverage module installed? All these 4 check boxes are always ticked, are always checked. They are always ticked by default. You don't have to go and make any changes to this. What you may need to define is the module control, which means the 2 control points that we have for the materials management. The first control point that we have is, should an issue be made without a requisition? This is to record consumption. So this is a consumption control which is available, which means that will you allow the system to record consumption transactions without a request being generated from the cost center in the system? So that is what it means, that should an issue be made without a requisition? Would you allow to post a issue transaction without a request generated from the system by the cost center? So if you tick this, which means you are allowing means you are not, there is no control of consumption, which means the storekeeper will be able to issue or post consumption to any cost center without a requisition, without a valid requisition or a request generated from the system. So if you want to have a control over consumption, this checkbox should be unticked. The next 2 controls that we have is for purchases. So the first control for purchase that we have is, should purchase order be made without requisition, which means would you allow the purchase department to raise a purchase order in the system irrespective of whether there is a request generated for purchase or not. So if you tick this, which means you are allowing, which means the system will not look for a valid requisition to be able to raise a purchase order. This option is something which depends on, should purchase order be made without requisition is a purchase control which depends on the size of the hotel, because sometimes if it is a mid-size hotel where the human resource or the resources available is few, and it can be that the store in charge and maybe is the same person who is raising purchase orders or is responsible for procuring items, or he could be the purchase manager as well as the store in charge. In that case, you can leave this control as ticked, which means you're not making it mandatory to raise a requisition in the system to create a purchase order, because it's the same person. The person who is in charge of the store is the person who's in charge of procuring. So he doesn't have to go through an extra step of creating a requisition first in the system and then changing it back into a purchase order. So you can leave this as ticked for mid-size hotels or smaller size hotels. Whereas for bigger hotels where there is manpower and there are different people assigned for even the smallest task, we always suggest that you leave it as unticked so that you have an additional control over procurement, which means till the time a storekeeper will not raise a request in the system saying that you need to purchase these list of items, the purchase manager will not be able to raise a purchase order against those items. The third and the final control that we have is, should we receive without purchase order, which means would you allow receipt of items from the supplier without a purchase order? So this mandatorily should be unticked. Otherwise, if you tick this, which means might as well not use the system at all because you're leaving everything open. You're able to show a receipt of items without a supporting legal document of purchase order. So this option, the third one, should we receive without purchase order, should always be unticked to have a purchase control. The third section that we have is payables. These are the ledger account codes that you need to define, which is payables account code. Payables account code is the sundry creditors ledger account code that you need to define here. The default and the discrepancy by default is already defined. What is the need of the default and the discrepancy, we will discuss much later. It's not a very important field as far as operations are concerned. So what is important is you need to define the creditors control account code here, because when you are recording the receipt of items, when you're creating a goods receipt note or you're creating the receipt of items from the supplier, the system will automatically post a journal in which it will debit the asset account and credit the sundry creditors control account. So what is the creditors control account that the system needs to know, which is why what you defined here is the payables account. Analysis cutoff percentages are required for the ABC, FSN, HML, and XYZ analysis. The cutoff percentages are already defined in the system by default. You don't have to make any changes. These are the default cutoffs. How each of the reports work basis on this cutoff percentages, I will tell you as we move on with the operations. So ABC, FSN, fast, low, non-moving, HML, high, medium, low, and your XYZ. XYZ and ABC for valuation. So this is the inventory control. You need to verify. The most important is to set up and verify this section, which is the module control and the payables control account. Now, once the inventory control is done, then is the master configuration, or what we call as parameter setup, that needs to be done. So this is inventory basic parameters. Inventory basic parameters will have a list on the left-hand side. You will see entire list of configurations that are required. Not all of them are mandatory. I will discuss, or I will tell you only those which are absolutely mandatory, without which the module will not work. So the very important one, first is the purchase order classification. Purchase order classification is not mandatory. However, basis on the discussion that you have with the customer, if they say that, yes, we want to generate reports and we want to classify our purchases as local and overseas purchases, then you can define the two here. PO class ID is an identification that you can give up to 4 characters and a description. That's about it. But this is not a mandatory parameter to set up. So you may skip. Unless and until the customer wants classification of purchase orders, you go ahead, otherwise you skip. The next is charge. Charge is what is absolutely mandatory. When I say charge are any additional charges that are applicable when you procure an item from a supplier. So it could be discounts, it could be freight charges, it could be any municipality charges, it can be packaging charges, it can be transportation charges, it can be delivery charges, anything additional which increases or decreases the value of the item at the time when you are receiving the items from the supplier, those are considered as charges. So you can define the list of your charges here. which is the charge ID. At the moment, you see there are only 4. I think at the property level, there should be probably more than 4. Yeah, there are 4. Okay. So going back to my chain, inventory basic parameters, there is charge. Now, when you define the charges at the chain, it will start reflecting automatically across all the properties. However, there can be scenarios where there may be a few charges which are applicable only to a specific or couple of properties because of the region in which they are located and not applicable to all properties. So the charges which you think are by and large applicable to all the properties, you create it at the chain, you define it at the chain so that they're visible across properties. And for those specific scenarios where the charges are applicable only to specific properties, you can shift, you can move to that particular property and create a charge at the property level itself so that it will be available only for the specific property in which you're creating and will not reflect in the others. Okay. Now, what is a charge? So there is a charge ID. I gave this is up to 4 characters. You give the description and the value. Now, the value, you may define the value here if the value of the charge is constant, irrespective of the item in which it is being applied, irrespective of the supplier, irrespective of the value. If it is a constant value, then you can define it here so that the moment you select this particular charge or you apply this particular charge at the time of creating the purchase order, the system will automatically default the value. On the other hand, if the value of the charge keeps changing basis on the supplier, basis on the item, basis on the value, then you do not define the value here, leave it as 0. Then there is, in the amount column, there are 2 options. One is actual and one is fixed. So actual is a charge, a kind of charge, the value of which you will never know at the time when you are creating a purchase order. So typically in India, it is the transportation charges. So transportation charges is the hotel knows that it will have to bear the transportation charges, but it does not know the value or how much would be the transportation charges. So all those charges where the value of which you will come to know only at the time when the items are being delivered, all those charges should be marked as actual. And when you mark it as fixed, which means this is a fixed value, you will know the value of this particular charge at the time when you are applying it in the purchase order. You mark it, you know the amount, you will say fixed, and then you say it is a percentage. If it is a percentage, will this percentage value of discount be calculated on the cumulative amount or will it be calculated on the base amount? So when you define it as cumulative amount, it means that the moment you apply this particular charge at the time of creating the purchase order, when you say DSPR, discount percentage, and you say 10 or 5%, the system starts looking for any other taxes or any other charges which are applicable on that particular item or on the total value of the purchase order. It first considers those charges and thereafter whatever is the value that comes out after applying those charges, it will apply this discount percentage. Why? Because I have said it should be applied on the cumulative value and not on the base value. I hope this concept is clear to everyone. Then the next column is included in VAT calculation. Included in VAT calculation means that by default, VAT is applicable on the base value of the item. However, if there is a scenario where the VAT is to be calculated after considering any charges applicable on that item, you will have to tick this option so that the system calculates VAT on after applying the charge and not on the base value of the item. So it is included in VAT calculation. So this particular charge, the amount of this particular charge, whatever the system calculates, will first apply to the base value of the item and thereafter calculate value on the total amount. So that is included in VAT calculation. Once you have created, these are the list of charges you will create. Rejection is not mandatory. Next is the unit. Unit is the unit of measurement. So unit of measurement for all the possible unit of measurement. When you open this particular page or this particular section, you will see the default, some of the very frequently used default base units like bag, bottle, bowl, box, can, number, grams, ml, all these base units are already defined in the system. What you will have to do is when you're taking a hotel live is tell the user to give you the list of all the possible unit of measurements that are used for the inventory items and create the derived units. So now I have, when I say derived unit, I mean, say I have this unit ID called box. Now the box, the unit ID does not have a conversion factor. The conversion factor column for this box is 0. So the system understands that this is a base unit. The next unit that I have defined is BX5L, which is box which contains something of 5000 ml. Now, how does the system know what this box is? So this is a box, one single box, which contains 5000 ml. So I have given a conversion factor of 5000 and the base unit as ml. Okay, so BX5L is convertible to 5000 ml. Similarly, I have given here, there's a base unit called can. It doesn't have a conversion factor, so which is why the system knows it's a base unit. Now, I have created one unit ID called C185. This is a can of 185 ml. So how does the system know that this is a can of 185 ml? Because I have given a conversion factor where I say C185 is nothing but 185 ml. So this is how you will have to define all the derived units which the customer will use when for all your inventory items. For all the inventory items that are stocked, that are consumed, each of these items will have a stocking unit. What is that unit of measurement? That entire list of unit of measurements is what you define here. Okay, so I have packet. So packet PKT is a base unit and I have P200, P300, P500. So these are nothing but packet of 200 grams, packet of 300 grams, packet of 500 grams. How does the system know? Because I have given a conversion factor and the base unit to which it should be converted. All right, so this is unit. Unit is absolutely mandatory. And then there is main item group. Main item group is again a broad category of item groups. So whatever is the broad category, various broad categories that you can see as beverage, engineering, food, general supplies, and operating supplies, vending machines, whatever. This is like a broad category of item groups, your inventory item groups. So once you've created the broad category, you can move on to creating the item group. Now, this item group, once you've created the units, the charges, the main item group is something that you can define when you're at the chain. Now, because item groups, department types and departments and store, these you have already defined, you've already created in the general ledger parameters. So you will see exactly the same that you have defined in general ledger parameters. You don't have to come here and define them again in materials management. But for item group, you have to move to property. Why do you have to move to the property? I will also tell you that. Here in inventory, now I'm in the property. I go to the inventory module. I am moved to inventory basic parameters. I go to item group here. And here, this is where I define my various item categories. So I have given an item group ID, I have given a number 22. I've given the description. This item group ID can be up to 4 characters. Okay, so I've given a identified and given a numeric value, 2 characters. This is a bar beverage category, which is mapped to the main category, which is BV, main category, main item group was created here. So I've mapped it to the main category here. And at the same time, I also define the account code, the ledger account code, okay, the cost ledger account code for this particular group. Okay, so this is the ledger account code that I have created. When you do a drop down here, you will see that this account code that I have defined here, the ledger account code that I have defined here for item group is for beverage cost. Okay, and it belongs to the ledger category cost of sales. So I can map the respective ledger account codes for each of my item groups here itself. And then I give the food, beverage, tobacco type category. This category that we define here is primarily for food and beverage cost control, which we will see much later. But during the setup, if say, for example, if the user may want to use the F&B cost control module in the future. So it's best that at the time when you are defining the list of item categories, you also mention what category, what FBT category is it? Is it a food type? Is it a beverage type? Is it a tobacco type? Or is it others? Okay, store receipt history, store issue history, automatically recalculate reorder levels. For the time being, just make a note that all these 3 have to be ticked. They are ticked by default, because the moment you create an item group, these 3 check boxes get ticked automatically. But just verify that all these 3 columns are ticked. So I have created my item group. I have mapped it to the main category, and I have also defined the corresponding cost ledger account code for this particular item group. All right. Alternate item category is not required. Documents is not required right now. Documents is already there in the system. You don't have to tamper with it. How is it used? When it is used, I will tell you. Department types. When you click on this department type, you will see the same list of departments which you had defined in the general ledger parameters. So it is the same list that is reflected here. When you click on the department, it will reflect the same list of cost centers which you had defined in the general ledger parameters. When you click on the store, you will see the same list of store locations which you had defined in the general ledger parameters. Okay. What you need to do, you don't have to come and recreate this entire list again. It will automatically, it's a mirror image, so it will show you. What you need to do for departments in store is to give access to the specific users. Okay, so every cost center, every department, every cost center should be given access to specific users. So I don't want my F&B users to be working on the sales and marketing department or the IT department, and vice versa. So which is why I will give access. So giving access is here at the bottom, which is user and department. When I click on user and department, you can have 2 views. You can either have department-wise user view, or you can have user-wise department view. So when you say department-wise user view, what happens is on the left-hand side, you will see the list of your cost centers. And on the right-hand side, you will have to click on the add row button and select the particular user ID. From this, when you do a drop down, you will see the entire list of users. So you give access, you select the particular user ID who's allowed to work on admin, because this is the department in which I'm giving an access. I select the user ID, and I also have another level of access, which is the document access. Document access means transaction access. So access document will define, when you say self, when I say self means whenever this training user logs into Web Prol'IFIC, he or she will be able to see, view, and edit only those records or only those transactions which have been created by himself or herself, which is self. Okay. When you say department, which means that whenever this particular user, TRNG user ID, logs into Prol'IFIC, he or she will be able to see all the transactions recorded by any user who is a part of this particular cost center, which means admin. Okay. When I say department type means whenever this user ID logs in, TRNG logs into the system, he or she will be able to see, or this user ID will be able to see and edit and create transactions pertaining to the department type. Department type means all the departments which is a category of this particular department, which means admin. So in case of restaurant 4, I have not given any access. Well, there's no access to find. So when I say restaurant 4, and here if I say training, this is my training user, and I say department type, which means that this training user will be able to post transactions on any of these departments which are a part of that particular department type, which is F&B service types. So the user will be able to record transactions and edit transactions of any user who works for restaurant 4, restaurant 5, 6, 7, 8 rooms, and all departments, all cost centers which belong to that particular department type, which is the F&B service department. When you say all, you should never say all, but if you say all, it means that there is no access control actually. It means the training user can access anything and everything throughout the system, all transactions of all departments, of all stores. So all is something which is not required, which should never be given unless and until it is a supervisor or an IT person or us as support people who need to access all transactions. Otherwise, for the end user, it should either be self or department type. So not only are you giving access of the particular department to that user, but you are also giving an additional access of transactions, whether self, department, or department type. Okay, so you click on save, and this is how you'll have to give access. The other is user-wise department, which means you will see the list of users here. So I can say TRNG user has access to grab and go, self-order, Wink, and restaurant 4. For restaurant 4, the user will be able to work only on transactions posted by self, whereas for Wink bar, self-order, grab and go, the user will be able to access, not only access, but modify, edit all the transactions at the department level by any user. Okay, so this is an additional. Similarly, for stores, you will see the list of stores which you have already created in general ledger. What you need to give is just access to the store. So user and store, it is exactly the same. It looks slightly different. So store-wise users or user-wise store. So user-wise store will list the users on the left-hand side and will list the stores here. So if I say TRNG user, I will select, I can click on the map column here, the checkbox, tick the checkbox in the map column for the respective stores in which TRNG user is allowed to work. Okay, if you say store-wise user, then it will list all the stores here. So you select the particular store for whom you want to give an access. On the right-hand side, you will see the list of users. You tick the checkbox in the map column for the respective users who's allowed to work on the store. So that is how it is to give access to department and store. Now, these are the very mandatory parameters that you need to define as far as materials management is concerned. Once this is done, the next move is to upload your list of items setup. In items setup, this is the entire list of inventory items master list. You will see the list here, the list which is already uploaded. You will see here on the right hand side. These are the list of, this is the information that needs to be entered to create your items master. Now, as a faster process, again, we have upload from Excel. It is exactly the same wherein you download a template. This is the template that you will see. I'll just open this Excel sheet. There are some fields which are absolutely mandatory to create an item, and there are some which are not very mandatory. So the ones which are absolutely mandatory are marked in red, I think. Yeah, the ones that are marked in red, okay, are absolutely mandatory, which needs to be entered. The rest are not mandatory. Once this entire Excel sheet is filled in, it is verified. Again, the process is exactly the same. You come back to this screen, you click on upload from Excel, the same screen opens up. So you choose the file, which means your Excel file that you've just filled in, and you say upload data. The moment you say upload data, the entire list of items will start appearing here. Okay. Now, what are the fields which are absolutely mandatory? I will tell you those. Okay, before that, let me just explain the screen first. At the top here, these are some of the filters which are available to locate items, to filter the list that you see here. So you can enter an item ID, or you can enter a specific item group or a type of store to filter the list that you see here. You also have additional filters, which is whether this item is a regular item, market list item, imported, central purchases. So these at the top are some of the filters that are available. You click on the search button and this list gets filtered. When you click on any of the item on the left hand side, it will show you the details on the right. So practically, these are the fields that needs to be entered to create an item as a part of the master list. Now, what are the information that I will tell you? Item type by default is always, so let me just click on the add button. So item type is inventory item. Do not change this. Let this be inventory item. Okay. The item ID. Now the item ID, it depends on the customer, or it depends on the user, whether they want item IDs to be generated automatically by the system, or will they maintain their own series of item IDs. Now, if they say that we will maintain our own series of item IDs, in that case, there is advanced control. So again, this is a part of an operational policy. So if you remember the screens, the operational control list that I had shown, that is a part of the system configuration. You can directly access some of the screens from here once you start getting a practice of the application. So I click here, I say advanced control. So in advanced control, I will locate the control code. It is, I think, by item. So this, I've selected description. I am entering some text so that it will filter the list of records, list of codes here. No, let me just do auto. Here, this is the control code. IVAUTO. So here it has been said that the item IDs will be generated automatically by the system, auto generation of item codes. How does the system know that the item codes have to be generated automatically? Because in this column of integer value, I have said given a value of 1. So 1 means I have switched this control on, and I have given the structure of the item ID. I have said S2G2, which means I am telling that the item code should be it should be created as the first 2 characters of the store type and the first 2 characters of the item group, followed by 000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the sequence number goes. So the structuring I have defined here, I'm saying that take the first 2 characters of the store type that I will define for the item, and the first 2 characters of the item group, and then add the sequence number, which is 000123455. So based on whatever is the structuring that the user wants, or you can define it. They can say that, no, we just want the first character of the store type and the last three should be, this is always 4-digit, okay? So you will have to play between 4 digits only. So you can have the first character of the store and the 3 characters of the item group, or you can have first 2 characters of the store and the 2 characters of the item group, or you can have first 3 of the store and first character of the item group. So this is the structure that you're defining, and you've said that it should be automatically generated. If you set this integer value to 0, which means that the user will enter the item code manually. So if the customer says that we have our own sequence of item IDs and we don't want the system to generate its own sequence, then you set this control code to 0. Otherwise, by default, whenever Web Prol'IFIC is installed or deployed, by default, this control is always 1, and the structuring by default is always the first 2 characters of store and the first 2 characters of the item group. So this is just an additional information that I'm giving. I go back to inventory now. So inventory item setup is also something which should be done at the chain to maintain the uniformity. So I go to item setup here, and I will use the upload Excel option available at the chain. Okay, so upload from Excel. Now here you don't have to, this item code, now if you remember, for Wink, I think it was done at the property level. Okay, so this item code here is automatically generated. Okay, you don't have to enter. So even in the Excel sheet, the Excel template that you will give to the user, you can say that you don't have to fill up the item ID column, because when you upload the Excel sheet, the system will automatically generate the item ID. All you need to give is give the description. Let me open the screen. So here, this column of item, you can ask the user to leave it blank because it will be automatically generated when you upload the list. The user will enter the description, of course. This is the description. The pack is not required. It is mandatory to enter the store type, the type of store to which this particular item belongs. So this is an item called bar, juice, cranberry, which belongs to the type of store called F&B store. Okay, so this is the store type, this column. The store type is mandatory. Then is the default store. The default store is also mandatory. So this is the default store. So within this particular store type, F&B store, if there are multiple store locations, which is the store ID, which the system can use it as a default store at the time when you are receiving the items from the supplier. So that is what is the default store. So this field is mandatory, which means default store column is mandatory. Then is the item group, which is mandatory because you're defining this particular item within a particular category. This belongs to bar food, so item group is 21. Then the next field which is mandatory, that is the stocking unit, the unit of measurement in which this item is stocked. So again, your stocking unit is mandatory here. The third, which is mandatory, is the item unit. For the time being, just keep in mind that the item unit should be the same as the stocking unit. How is this item unit used? Where is it used? We will probably not need to discuss at all, because, or maybe we'll discuss it much, much later. So right now, to start with, just keep in mind that the item unit should be the same as the stocking unit. So these are the columns, the ones which are in red, which are absolutely mandatory. To be on a safer side, if the user may want to use the F&B cost control module later on, so therefore it is best that you define the F&B unit and the F&B group as well. So you can, for the time being, let the F&B group be the same as bar food, which is your item category. F&B unit is the unit of measurement in which this particular item will be used in recipes. So ideally try to make it to the base unit, which is ml. So I'm stocking the unit as bottle of 890 ml, but in recipes, I will use it in ml, which is why F&B unit is ml. So for the time being, in this sheet itself, the Excel sheet itself, when you're creating the item IDs, you can define the base unit for F&B unit, and you can define the item code, the item category as the F&B group here. Okay. Then the item VAT class, this is a classification basis on which the system will automatically pick up the VAT percentages. Okay, so where is this classification? This list of classification is created. I will tell you in the next step. But for the time being, if you know, or if the user tells you that these are the list of items which are VATable and this is the percentage applicable, then you can define the item VAT class also at the time when you're creating this Excel sheet, item VAT class here. These are not mandatory fields, but this is just as a preparation or as a precaution so that later on when the hotel goes live and they wish to, you're not in a turmoil of uploading these extra informations later on. So F&B unit, F&B group, and item VAT class is something you can do it at the time when you are uploading the items. So where is this item VAT class created? I will tell you that also. How is the classification created? That is also something that I will tell you. So this is there. And meanwhile, you can also define the items as regular items, market list items, expires, and non-stockable. When I say non-stockable are direct issue items like say perishables or laptops or IT or engineering items which are not stocked in the store but given directly to the cost center for consumption the moment it is received from the supplier. So those are non-stockable items. Some of the food items and beverage items you may mark as expires. This is all an additional information. This is not as a part of the mandatory master creation. But if the user says that, if the customer wants to maintain the expiry details of food and beverage items in the inventory module, then you can mark them as expires. When you mark them as expires, in the future, later on, at the time of transaction posting, the user is supposed to enter the expiry details of each of these food and beverage items that have been marked as expires. Market list is to mark all the items as market list items, which are perishables, food and beverage, food items, typically poultry or vegetables or dairy products, which are a part of the market list created by the chef every day. So you can mark them as market list items. When you mark them as market list items, at the time of raising the requisition, the screen layout changes a little bit so that it's easier to create the requisition for market list items. So that is why you may want to mark it as, you want to make this indicator on for all market list items. Plus later on, if you want to generate, if the user wants to see the list of requisitions for market list items, the report can be generated based on this indicator. Similarly, is regular items. All other items which are not a part of the market list or expires or anything, they are a regular item, regular purchase items. So this is as a part of the items master list. You create the items master list and you upload. That is where you get to see here in this screen. Now my items master list is uploaded. Now let me just go back. I'll just quickly, it's already 12 o'clock. I think we can stop here. We meet again tomorrow. I will cover up the VAT setup and move on to operations a little faster. Otherwise, it will take a long time to cover each and every thing. All right. Thank you so much for today. We meet again tomorrow at the same time. It will be 10 to 12 India Standard Time. And I will send you the recording today by the end of the day for today's session, or I may send it at the end of all the 4 days together in one go.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any questions, If you have any questions or if you have any queries or doubts, please, you can put it up in an email to me. I think you already are aware of my email ID. It is priyanka@prologicsfirst.com.
Okay. Thank you, ha.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.